Now, in front of thousands of Mercedes employees, McLaren are extra keen to deliver on track. Team McLaren Mercedes are in our focus throughout this weekend.
We're with the super cool Kimi Räikkönen. His fans are convinced he can win this year's championship. Test driver Alex Verts gives us the lowdown on the MP417, the car that surpassed all expectations. And on board his private jet, team principal Ron Dennis talks about his agony when McLaren aren't the best.
The one-liner is, coming second is being the first of the losers, and it is a very painful experience. I don't make any secret of the fact that I'm an awful loser. I mean, I'm pretty tough on myself. I actually said once I feel physical pain, and to a certain extent that is true. You know, you get so sort of mentally aggressive with yourself that you feel frustrated, disappointed, quite a complex mixture of emotions. I am emotional, and that's the point of when it shows, and it can be a bit of disappointment or delight, or which almost brings me to the edge of a tear. I am that passionate about it.
How do you feel about getting as far as you have this season in last year's car?
The only part of the last year's car that has remained consistent is the basic structure called the monocoque, and even those, some of them are, we made new ones for this season. Every other aspect of the car was new, and it allowed us to accelerate quickly the development of a new car. Everything was optimized, and we got a much bigger performance step from it than we anticipated. But we are pretty close now to saying, let's use the 18 for an intensive development program, take out those things which we know are its weaknesses, rebirth it as a 19 next year, and and finish the season with an uprated version of what we've got. So we are now at the moment pushing like hell in the wind tunnel. Mercedes-Benz are working very hard on the engine. If we can get an incremental improvement for the Italian Grand Prix, it could well see us taking the decision to race this car for the end of the season. But nothing will take us out of contention faster than not finishing a race. Michael doesn't finish one race, the championship is going to be really close. He's got one race that he could not finish. If we don't finish one race, that's it, championship over.
Is Kimi Räikkönen really a potential world champion?
Both our drivers can win world championships. This guy he's cool. He really knows what it takes to get the job done. He still needs to be better than he is. He needs to understand the level of dedication that's required. Has he got the pace? Yes. Has he got the speed? Yes. Is he aggressive enough? Yes. Is he dedicated enough to be a constant world champion? Not yet. But that's understandable. There's no one more disappointed than David. It's not that he's weak in his character. He's very determined. He's got tremendous self-belief, and he should have, because he's very good. But boy, did he make it difficult for himself in his qualifying. In England, he had to psych himself out a little bit, and it is the truth. Does it jeopardise his future in McLaren? Well, it makes you think. It's a close call, but we are fiercely loyal to our drivers, and vice versa, and we have a genuine and firm belief in his capabilities. So, it's not a decision we have to take at the moment. It's not a decision that we've taken.
So while David Coulthard hangs on Ron's decision, teammate Kimi Räikkönen pays a visit to Hockenheim's marshals, hoping this will be the only time he sees them all weekend. He's also got a bit of advice.
Do you have any wish to the crowd here?
Yeah, if we are lapping someone, you should get the blue flags quickly out and get the other guys out of the way to help us.
That's what they are.
With 150 satisfied marshals behind him, it's into the company car and back to the hotel. So, Kimi, that wasn't so bad at the end of a long, tiring day. Those marshals seem to appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't too bad. No, it was okay. I guess it's good to make them happy, because in then they make the work on the circuit, and they can maybe help us out then on some points.
It doesn't become a bit of a pain?
Not really, no. Once you get used to it, it's okay. It would be more nice to go straight to the hotel, but It's special. It's part of the whole work, and it's fine. Look, they are running.
It's Alonso, isn't it?
They don't get cars from Renault, do they?
Happy with his first overtaking move of the weekend, Kimi heads for an early night before another day in the spotlight.
Hello, Alex Wurz. I'm gonna show you my environment where I'm working now, which is the 17D. Just have a look with me. Most of the people have heard about the monocoque, which starts from here, from the front. In this part, there are my legs. Then here, it's very narrow, that's where I'm sitting. You can have a look into the monocoque here. The monocoque actually goes until here. The interesting thing is that within the monocoque, there's also the fuel cell, the fuel tank, which has a capacity about 100 kilograms of fuel, where the driver actually is sitting in. So I'm sitting within the fuel cell. All around me are the cables, the wires coming from the front to the back of the car. That's my steering wheel, center of attention. It doesn't only function as a steering wheel itself. There are many functions in there. First of all, most important, you have the gear shifts, which are here. The right is upshift, the left is downshift. Then on the front of the steering wheel, all these functions and settings, starting here with the pit lane speed limiter for the pit lane. Then we have the drink bottle, and the neutral switch is here marked with a bright color. And here, the right stop button, that's the launch control button, which is only used in the pit lane and especially, of course, at the start of the race. Here, that's the throttle pedal, and on the left, that's the brake pedal. We don't have any clutches, we have that on the steering wheel, of course. And these pedals are worked on very hard, and of course the brake pedal, there's an enormous amount of pressure going onto the brake pedal. That's why it's actually very big, very stiff to cope with all that pressure. Right, that was a brief look into my car, but more than 4,000 single bits are there. Of course, everywhere it's the attention to the detail with Mclaren. You have the logos here on the mounting of the headrest. Everything is really smoothly worked on. Goes here into the little deflectors, important for the aerodynamics. But all these little things are so important on these race cars. They have 900 horsepower, sometimes incredibly difficult to handle, but of course that's the challenge, why we like to drive it, and I just love it.
Alex Wurz will be our studio guest tomorrow. Okay, well, a chance now to see a very revealing side to the character of McLaren team boss Ron Dennis. En route to Germany on his private jet, we talked first of all about the very special relationship he formed with the double world champion, Mika Häkkinen.
If someone injures themselves in your racing cars, it's always bad. It's happened rarely in McLaren. This time, it was a near fatal accident. And when you sit for a couple of days by someone's bedside and you see them fighting for life, and then you see how hard he fought to recover, how hard he worked to get in the racing car, and how well he did, 2 world championships. You can't have the same relationship with that individual that you have with another driver. It's just different. It doesn't give him an advantage. It's just a sort of emotional, an emotional thing. And you just, you know, it's like going through the whole traumatic experience firsthand.
It's very difficult for people to envisage McLaren without Ron Dennis. Can you envisage it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, part of the remaining ambitions that I have is to sit somewhere in on a beach or on a boat somewhere and watch McLaren win on television. I mean, the thought of being alive and seeing McLaren failing is very, you know, very painful. And I think you're a fool if you try and make yourself the book. You know, you've got to have the desire and the ambition to be a chapter, and the best chapter. But if you try to be the book, meaning just working to the point at which you are too old to run the business, then your business will suffer. I'm 56 years old myself. I have obviously with my wife, a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 15-year-old. So I feel that, you know, if they're faced with having a slightly more mature dad than some of the other kids, I have to compensate. What I try to do, although it's a bit hammy, I really do try to give them, you know, the quality time that sometimes it's called in America. I really try to make myself very attentive. Doesn't require an effort because I'm passionate about the family, but it is there in the back of my mind. I've got to try a bit harder because I am, you know, 12 hours a day at work.
You talk about your attention to detail, and you love things to be absolutely spotless, absolutely clean and neat and tidy. Do you ever sort of have a little giggle at yourself?
I'm a sad character, really. How my wife puts up with me, let alone with my business colleagues, I just don't know. I'm a straightener. I have a clean desk policy. I'll walk into a house if there's no one around. It might not be. I'll be straightening pictures on the wall and things like that. Crooked pictures just drive me absolutely bonkers, And my wife will look at me sometimes as if I'm from Planet Zog. We'll be having a dinner party, or we'll be sat in a lounge or something. I'll get up and subconsciously go and straighten the picture, sit down again. She looks at me as if I'm, bonkers. But hopefully I have some qualities which make up for it.
So now that David Coulthard interview. David, one of the drivers who stays in his own motorhome at most of the European races, and he's in pretty good company, as Louise Goodman discovered.
There's a little gang of you, yourself, Jacques and Jensen, who always sort of camp together at these races. Do you ever get together in the evenings and chat through the day, or do you very much keep to yourselves?
No, Jensen popped by the other night. Jack just stuck his head in after quali. It varies. Sometimes we've got our girlfriends here, sometimes not. And that will obviously, mean whether we spend more time with each other or less.
To me, you are sort of smooth and efficient on the outside, but there's a kind of a naughty, playful side to you as well, which is very much the impression I get with the team. Is that a fair assumption for both of you and the team?
I totally relate to the way Ron and Norbert run the organisation, because at the end of the day, it is a serious business. There's a large amount of money invested in trying to get racing cars to go around the track as quickly as possible. There's a time to be serious, and definitely when cameras roll and when I'm in press conference, I'm more serious than I would tend to be in the rest of my life, because I have to consider what I'm going to say, because loose words can give the wrong impression or create a problem for the team. You know the way we all are when the cameras aren't rolling. But we can't be like that when a camera. I defy anyone to be entirely natural when a camera's running.
One of the big talking points this weekend obviously has been the contractual situation with yourself and Kimi. What's the situation there? What can you tell us?
Well, I have a contract with Mclaren, and as has been said consistently by the team, and in the coming weeks then there'll be an announcement. But it's inevitable that there will be rumours, some of which will be true and some will just be pure speculation.
How much of a distraction is it? Because obviously your job here is to go racing.
Yeah, of course it's a distraction, because you're having to answer questions on it repeatedly, the same question, and you give the same answer every time. Anything that you have to repeat, if we remember back to our childhood, you only really needed to be told once by your mother, and that was enough. But in this business, you keep asking and you have to keep explaining the same thing over and over. But that's not the reason why I qualified 10th.
What's been your overriding feeling when you look back over this season?
Well, it's been one of frustration, largely due to qualifying out of position. My race pace has always been very good. Practice pace most of the time has been pretty good. There's been more often than not poor qualifying performances, and that puts you in a position where you compromise for the rest of the weekend. And I've obviously had to overtake a few people along the way. There's been some strong races. Obviously more so at the beginning of the year.
Is it immensely frustrating to see that sort of dripping away from you?
Of course it is, and it's energy sapping, and it's all the things that you can imagine that go with a situation not unfolding the way you'd like it to. You've just got to deal with it, and as you see people growing around you in confidence, and your competitors growing in confidence, you've got to try and somehow get over that hurdle. And there's still a few opportunities this year to do that, and obviously then it's a case of focusing on the coming year. I have the ability, I have the speed. Having a difficult season this year, and I have to focus obviously on the qualifying, but I will get on top of it and I will win Grand Prix again.